The day the questions died. What if one morning you woke up and realized that the human race had stopped thinking? Not in some distant, sci-fi future. Not after a cataclysm or a war. But now, quietly, invisibly, without anyone noticing. You step outside and see people moving, talking, smiling, even laughing, but it's different. Every gesture feels scripted. Every conversation schemes the surface. Faces glow with the reflection of screens, thumbs swipe in unconscious rhythm, and everywhere you look, there's movement without meaning. The air itself feels heavy, not with sound, but with the absence of it. Not the peaceful stillness of a forest at dawn or a cathedral at prayer, but a hollow, suffocating quiet that hums like an empty engine. And then it hits you. No one is asking why anymore. The slow death of curiosity. The human mind was once a restless engine, forever gnawing at the edges of the unknown, always unsatisfied, always reaching. Now, it's dulled into passive consumption. Inquiry has gone from habit to inconvenience. Silence is no longer a space for reflection, but a buffer for scrolling. We are drowning in answers but starved of questions. This isn't fiction. It's not the plot of a dystopian novel. This is the slow rot of our intellectual life, a decay so gradual that most people don't even notice it's happening. And the cost? Staggering. A society without questions is a society without self-correction. Without self-correction, freedom is traded for comfort, truth for convenience, and wisdom for the warm embrace of the herd. The dangerous comfort of not thinking. Real thinking is hard. It is slow, uncertain, and uncomfortable. It demands the discipline to sit in silence with ideas that challenge you, to wrestle with truths you wish weren't true. Our modern systems, however, are built for speed. Algorithms reward impulsivity, not contemplation. Schools train for memorization, not exploration. Political discourse thrives on outrage, not reasoning. None of this is accidental. As Noam Chomsky once warned, power thrives when the public is trained to manufacture consent. A population that reacts instead of reflects is a population that can be managed, and deceived, with ease. In such a world, asking, "Is this actually true?" becomes an act of rebellion. Drowning in data, starving for thought. The average person today consumes 5 times more information per day than a generation ago. Our minds were never designed for this flood. When overwhelmed, the brain seeks shortcuts. We default to beliefs we've already adopted. We trust authority figures or influencers without evidence. We assume that if everyone is saying it, it must be right. It's the ancient survival instinct of social proof, once useful in small tribes, now a lever of mass manipulation. In the digital era, it's exploited by headlines, hashtags, and viral trends that bypass reason entirely. Neuroscientist Marianne Wolf warns that the deep, sustained reading that once shaped intellectual life is vanishing. Without sustained reading, there is no sustained thinking. And without sustained thinking, questioning becomes impossible. Carl Sagan's warning now reads like prophecy. We live in a society exquisitely dependent on science and technology, in which hardly anyone knows anything about science and technology. We are passengers on a vessel whose controls we can't read, trusting that someone, somewhere, knows the way. Why we defend illusions. The greatest enemy of thinking is not ignorance, it's discomfort. To think critically means admitting that you might be wrong. It means standing in the cold light of reality without the warm blanket of certainty. That's why we hide in echo chambers. Why we choose tribal identity over truth. Why we defend beliefs not because they are correct, but because they are ours. Throughout history, questioning the consensus could cost you your place in the tribe, or your life. Today, the punishments are digital shaming, public cancellation, and social exile. So we keep quiet. And in our quiet, we give our silent consent. The systems that shape us. The death of independent thought isn't an accident, it's the end product of systems designed for obedience. John Taylor Gatto, the radical educator, argued that modern schooling was modeled on industrial factories. The purpose was not to create thinkers, but compliant workers. The bells, the rigid schedules, the standardized testing, all were tools to train people to fit, not to question. This conditioning doesn't end at graduation. Corporations reward compliance. Media rewards conformity. Governments reward obedience. The more you agree, the safer you feel, until safety becomes indistinguishable from submission. The truth we fear most. At the root of our resistance to thinking is fear, fear of what we might find if we actually looked. We might discover that our beliefs are hand-me-downs from family, tribe, or media. That much of what we defend is built not on truth, but on fear and habit. And that's terrifying. Because to think for yourself is to strip away illusions, to stand unarmored before reality. To realize that you are not your party, your religion, or your peer group. You are a mind, capable of evolving beyond everything you currently believe. This is why critical thinking is not just an intellectual skill. It's a spiritual rebellion. It's the decision to honor truth over comfort, growth over certainty, and freedom over belonging. The awakening. When you begin to think for yourself, you start to see the scaffolding of control. The narratives designed to keep you compliant. The outrage designed to keep you distracted. The illusions designed to keep you divided. At first, it's disorienting. Even lonely. But reality, however uncomfortable, is the only ground solid enough to stand on. Carl Jung said it best. People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own souls. The thinker's task is to face it anyway. Your invitation. Refuse to be a passive consumer of ideas. Become their interrogator. Trade agreement for understanding, reaction for reflection. Let the crowd chase trends and slogans. You will chase truth. Because here's the secret, once you wake up, you can't go back to sleep. The slogans stop working. The illusions stop holding. And the powers that be lose their grip on your strings. In the end, the most revolutionary act in a world built on manipulation is not to shout, not to conform, and not to obey. It is to think. The architecture of silence. The death of curiosity never arrives with sirens. It does not announce itself with authoritarian decrees, marching boots, or burning libraries, not at first. Instead, it arrives in whispers. It arrives as a subtle shift in the air, when asking the wrong question earns a quiet glance, when an opinion outside the script makes the room uneasy, when laughter dies just a little too quickly after someone challenges the consensus. In time, the change becomes structural. The walls close in, not because someone has locked the doors, but because people have stopped walking toward them. The prison of the mind is built from within. History proves it. History's quiet coups. The greatest empires didn't just conquer by sword, they conquered by narrative. Rome, after all, didn't control its provinces by keeping a legion in every village. It controlled them by convincing people that Roman order was synonymous with civilization itself. Questioning Rome was questioning the idea of progress. Centuries later, the same mechanics repeated. In the Soviet Union, citizens learned the art of doublethink, not because they were stupid, but because survival demanded it. You could know that the bread lines were growing longer, that the newspapers lied, that the slogans didn't match reality, and yet, in public, you repeated the slogans. The truth existed only in whispers between trusted friends. This is the most effective kind of control, not the kind that forces you to agree, but the kind that makes you pretend you agree until the pretending becomes real. The modern mask. We like to think we've evolved past such systems, but the 21st century has simply made them invisible. Today, the control is distributed, no single dictator pulling the strings, but a network of incentives and algorithms that shape thought without needing to ban it outright. We call it content curation. We call it community guidelines. We call it engagement optimization. But what it really means is this: you see what they want you to see. Your social feed is not a reflection of the world, it's a reflection of what keeps you clicking. And what keeps you clicking is not the truth, it's the things that confirm what you already believe, or make you angry enough to react instantly without thinking. This is why outrage feels like action, why reposting feels like activism, why commenting feels like debate. We mistake motion for progress, and in doing so, we surrender depth for speed. The seduction of herd thinking. The urge to follow the crowd is ancient. In our evolutionary past, survival often depended on sticking with the group. If everyone ran from the sound in the bushes, you ran too, because the one who stayed behind might end up as lunch. But in the digital age, the herd is no longer protecting you from predators. It's protecting itself from discomfort. It's running not from tigers, but from inconvenient truths. And here's the most dangerous part, when the herd runs in the wrong direction, the faster it moves, the harder it is to stop. The bandwagon effect, well documented in psychology, shows that people adopt beliefs and behaviors simply because others are doing so. In ancient times, this could unify a tribe against a real threat. Today, it can unify millions in spreading falsehoods. The marketplace of manufactured realities. We no longer live in a shared reality, we live in parallel realities, each one tailored to the emotional appetites of its audience. For some, the world is on the brink of collapse. For others, the same world is on the brink of a golden age. Both groups can prove their position with an endless stream of articles, videos, and statistics, each one carefully selected to support the narrative. This is why debates today rarely change minds, both sides are arguing from entirely different worlds. The facts that one side considers obvious are invisible to the other. The internet has given us access to more information than any generation before us, and yet, paradoxically, it has made it easier than ever to live in an information bubble. The comfort of the script. To escape this bubble requires something painful, the willingness to rewrite your own script. We all have one, a mental script that tells us how the world works, who the heroes are, who the villains are, and what role we play. This script gives life coherence. It makes us feel safe. But the problem with safety is that it makes us reluctant to leave, even when the walls start closing in. Critical thinking isn't just about challenging the world's narratives, it's about challenging your own. It means asking, what if my side is wrong? What evidence would make me change my mind? Am I defending the truth, or just defending myself? These questions hurt. They tear at the ego. But they are the first step toward intellectual freedom. The mechanics of intellectual control. If you want to understand how thought is shaped, you must understand the tools. They are not mysterious, they are simple, ancient, and devastatingly effective. 1. Distraction. If people are too busy to think, they won't think. Keep them scrolling, binge-watching, and working long enough, and you don't need to censor them, they'll censor themselves. The Roman Empire called it bread and circuses. We call it entertainment. 2. Emotional hijacking. The fastest way to bypass reason is to trigger emotion. Anger, fear, pride, these can all short-circuit the rational mind. Political campaigns, advertisers, and media outlets know this well. Outrage headlines aren't accidents, they're hooks. 3. Linguistic framing. Control the words, and you control the debate. Once a term is emotionally loaded, it shapes thought without argument. People stop asking whether the label is accurate and simply respond to the label itself. 4. False choices. If you can make people believe there are only two options, you've already won. Are you with us or against us, is one of the oldest manipulations in history. It shuts down nuance and makes independent thought look like betrayal. 5. Manufactured consensus. If it looks like everyone agrees, most people will go along, even if that consensus is artificially created by bots, fake polls, or selective media coverage. Humans fear isolation more than error. Breaking the chains. Escaping these tools is not about rejecting all information. It's about mastering your filters. Slow down before reacting. The moment you feel the urge to reply instantly is the moment you're most vulnerable to manipulation. Seek disconfirmation, not just confirmation. Read the strongest arguments against your position and take them seriously. Limit algorithmic feeds. Use direct sources when possible, books, long-form essays, unedited speeches. Question the question. Often, the way a question is framed determines the answer before it's even given. The loneliness of the free thinker. Here's the paradox: the freer your mind becomes, the lonelier you may feel. When you stop reciting the script, you will lose some people. The invitations may stop. The conversations may turn awkward. People will misinterpret your independence as hostility. But loneliness is not the same as isolation. In fact, it can be the doorway to something richer, relationships built not on shared slogans, but on shared truth-seeking. You will find others, scattered, perhaps, but present, who value the same freedom you do. These are the people who will challenge you, not coddle you. Who will debate you without needing to destroy you. And when you meet them, the loneliness begins to fade. Rebuilding the habit of thought. The good news is that thinking, like any skill, can be rebuilt. Read beyond your comfort zone. Not just the thinkers you agree with, but the ones you resist. Write your thoughts down. Writing forces clarity. If you can't explain your position without slogans, you don't understand it. Practice intellectual humility. Admit when you don't know. Ask others to teach you without feeling threatened. Guard your attention like treasure. In a world where everyone is fighting for it, attention is the new currency of power. The call to courage. The world does not reward quiet rebels, at least, not immediately. It will be easier to join the chant than to step aside from it. Easier to agree publicly and doubt privately. But every civilization that ever lost its freedom began with a silent majority who chose comfort over courage. You cannot control what billions think. You can control what you think. And in a time of mass conformity, that is no small power. Because here is the truth they will never tell you: all revolutions, intellectual, political, spiritual, begin in the mind of a single person who refuses to stop asking why.